The three-way, the triple threat with Ricochet and Ospreay and our boy Takeshita. I'm back on it. I don't know what's going on here now with him anymore either. But what title was this? Was this the Continental? Or is this the International? What belt were the three of them going for?
This one is the International.
Okay, well, this is for the International title. And, of course, Don Fallis is on color commentary. Have you noticed he's the manager of all these guys in these matches, but he never manages? When's the last time you saw him at ringside with anybody in any of their matches?
Because he's not a real manager. He's a bullshit manager. Real managers had real foreign objects like a tennis racket or even a cell phone, not a fucking screwdriver.
A screwdriver. I wonder, but is it a flathead or a Phillips? See, that may make all the difference.
That's a good question.
I think you could get a Phillips by the Athletic Commission, but a flathead would do a lot of damage, because it would be wider. Just a thought.
No, but he's a bullshit manager. I mean, he's on commentary yucking it up with the other commentators, doing shtick. He was with baby faces for a while because the heels just suddenly were baby faces, and it's just the execution's always poor, I guess is the best way to put it.
Well, again, trying to figure out a family tree on the Don Callis family and whether they're supposed to be people we cheer for or boo against. Doing that family tree would be like trying to figure out who parented all the Kardashian children. And in this match, you've got two baby faces and one heel, the way that I looked at it, because they like Ricochet and they like Ospreay. No matter how the people have been portrayed, Ospreay was in the heel group. They were cheering the fucking rafters off for him at the same time as they were booing the shit out of his manager. But Ospreay and Ricochet are the baby faces, and Take is the heel. So you got two against one in the wrong way. But basically what they did here was everything that they've ever been able to figure out how to do. The American-style aggressive parkour mixed with the Japanese indie style, depending on which two of the three had their turn in the spotlight, while the other guy laid out on the floor and rested or did whatever, hid, whatever they do. In the first 2 minutes, they're pulling out the table because they're down on the floor. And again, I think if Ospreay had come along at a time through the 80s or even 90s, been trained properly from the start, not thought that he was probably smarter than he was when he got into business because he wouldn't have been on the internet, and taught how to think about wrestling, I believe he would have been one of the best baby faces in the business. I think I like AJ Styles, except for the TNA run, but AJ was very, very accomplished in doing a revolutionary cutting-edge style, even though he physically got big enough to where he looked like he could handle himself, and he got, a bit of a promo. Right? You see what I'm saying? Not going to be the next fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin, but one of the top in-ring baby faces in the business. But you need to have guys trained how to think as well as how to move and what moves to do. And we've talked about he needs to be produced for American television, but also he needs to be booked for any sane, rational person instead of Tony's. I bet you Tony could write a hell of a goddamn murder mystery. What about if Tony took a free weekend? He's got nothing to do anyway, and rewrote Murder on the Orient Express. What kind of book do you think that would be?
I don't know. I can't see the book having much direction. Probably goes off on a lot of little side things, and maybe some people get sent home for a while. Maybe there's a train to Bulgaria.
Wait a minute. No, that's
one-way trip to Bulgaria. You're never getting out of your contract, boy. Something like that.
People that were on the train suddenly are off the train, or people that weren't on the train are suddenly on the train, even though they're stuck in Borgo Pass or whatever the fuck it was.
It's Tony's magic train. You get on the train thinking, this train's great. There's fucking drugs. There's fucking women all over the place. This seems like all right. By the time you get to the last car, you're so tired of it. But you can't get off the train.
Don't you miss this train at the station, 'cause if you miss it, I feel sorry for you. Ooh, people all over the world.
And what's that coming in? Oh my, it's a helicopter. It's Nick Khan hanging off a helicopter. He's going to save us. That's what you hope for. You hope that when you're in the last train car of the Tony Khan Express, Nick Khan just comes swooping in a helicopter and just saves you. Just one hand out, grabs you, pulls you up, saves you.
Right before you go into the ravine in the train, a la Buster Keaton in The General. See, if you're going to reference film, I'll do the same thing.
That's a great scene. That's one of the best film scenes ever still.
But, you know, even
it was a real train. They really did it.
Well, yes, that's what I'm saying. Even back in the day, you had people like Vince say, let's pour concrete in a fucking Corvette. Well, let's run a fucking train off the goddamn trestle. Anyway, this match, and a bunch of people loved it on the Twitter machine and everything, because a bunch of people landed on their feet and did just high quality tricks, as your kids used to say. But as the basic match, one guy takes turns disappearing for no reason, so the other two can do their spots, and then they all three do a little dance. And then the obvious cooperation is off the page, and you can't suspend disbelief, and there is no way to tell a story. And in the process, the baby faces do more damage to each other than the heel does to either one of them. And it gets to the point where it's the same thing. Are we supposed to be rooting for someone, or are we just watching an America's Got Talent audition where these guys are going to do a bunch of cool athletic feats of legerdemain? And that's the match. And then after Ospreay and Ricochet have hit each other with everything that they've ever done before, then they decide to team up against the heel. And when they do that, the heel, there was one single heel, mostly kicks the shit out of both of them until they start fighting each other again. And then I wrote here the notes. Everybody no-sell shit to land on their feet. Now people are cheering the only heel in the match. And everything that they know doesn't work to beat anyone. And then, I'm sorry, but once again, I'm a professional. So after a couple of drinks, the chick doing karaoke might sound like she can sing, but not if, goddamn Rick Rubin's sitting in a fucking crowd, right? And when Ospreay and Ricochet climb to the top rope and gingerly help each other balance while Take is standing in the middle of the ring, staring slack-jawed at him and staggering and waiting so that Ospreay can leap up and Ricochet can catch him so that Ospreay can Hurricane Rana Ricochet, who cannonballs into Take. But Take kind of dropped him, so Ricochet rolled up on his chest, 2 count. What the fuck? Is this the Flying Walindas? Or you can be too fucking cute, can't you? Help me, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're going to get when you have Ospreay and Ricochet in there together. That's what they love to do. Those are the two guys that excel at it. And like you said, Ospreay has potential beyond that. And he'll get there one day. Look, you have to look at AEW like a continuation of whatever he was doing on the Indies and in Japan. It's just more of that until he decides, all right, now it's time. He'll be in his 30s. Hopefully he's not too beat up. But he's just going to do more of his indie stuff here. And then when the company doesn't grow and no one really gets over and they don't understand why, they'll, blame us for talking about it.
Well, anyway, I will get back to this thing.
I like
because it ain't over yet.
I think Takeshita's a star. I think he's great.
Well, remember we thought that last year when we started seeing him until he disappeared and we don't know why.
But now AEW is starting to add some people with some size. You know, Shelton Benjamin coming in. Not that Takeshita's that big, but he's bigger than all the usual AEW dwarves.
Well, we'll talk about that, I'm sure, because it's going to be interesting when Shelton gets in there and looks like goddamn Ernie Ladd next to everybody on the fucking roster. But anyway, there was here was the spot. Old Takeshita gave Ricochet a modified tombstone off the apron through a table. And I said, if Ricochet gets up, I'm not even watching the finish. But that was the way to get rid of him so they could actually do something more violent. So something in the recent past you could have done to somebody and carted them out in an ambulance as an angle, and they'd been off for 6 weeks or 2 months and come back and got revenge and blah, 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 is like, okay, we don't need him involved in the finish. Let's give him a reason to sell over here. The fuck? So then Ospreay gives Takeshita his finish elbow and gets a 1 count. And then he gives him another one and covers him. But then Don pulls the referee out to the floor by his leg, the old, come here, I want to talk to you spot, where he pulls the referee out. And then suddenly, I get, they didn't show it on camera, but apparently Don Callis chloroformed the referee because we're not going to see him for the next 2 to 3 minutes from being pulled to the floor. I'm serious, because the guy that pulled him to the floor gets in the ring and fucking gets a screwdriver out and goes to fucking stab Ospreay, and Ospreay blocks it. And he goes to give Don the Tiger Driver. But suddenly a guy in a black hoodie comes in. And remember in the previous segment, we had 2 or 3 of these surprise entrances. The guy in the black hoodie comes in and hits Ospreay in the back of the head with the screwdriver. And then takes so long to reveal himself that the announcers are having a hum and haw when it's obvious it's his face is not being covered by the hoodie. It's who it is, but
it was obvious right away.
It's right away. And who else is that tall in this guy? And he takes the fucking thing off, and it's Kyle Felcher, Will Ospreay's bosom buddy. And Ospreay's on his knees holding his head, and he's staring at Kyle. And Kyle stared at Ospreay. And then Ospreay stared at Don. And then Don stared at Ospreay. And then Ospreay looked at Take-A-Shit, who was lowering his knee pad. And Ospreay is kneeling there in the middle of the ring like, oh, please don't knee lift me. But he doesn't make a move to do anything to get away. And all this guy that is quicker than a hiccup, as Gordon Solie used to say. And Take runs and boom, gives him a knee lift and covers him. And Kyle throws the referee in, who was still immobile from minutes previously when he got pulled out, who made a slow 3 count like he was recovering from anesthesia after colon surgery. And he made the 3 count, and the new Intercontinental Champion is now Take-A-Shit. And then Kyle gave Ospreay the dreaded Tiger Driver. And this was the gymnastics match on the card, and boy, did they take their job seriously. But then, again, how many attempted murders? They're not talking about hitting somebody with brass knuckles. They're going straight to the, I'm going to stab you in the face with a fucking screwdriver. Why does it need to be a screwdriver? Just because they started using a screwdriver? Why did they start using a screwdriver?
At no point did anyone bring up how dumb it is to use a screwdriver. I mean, I saw the way Kyle Fletcher was holding it when he came in the ring. So it's like, okay, he's going to bash him in the head with the side of the screwdriver? So,
Which seems
those are
like
the
an
two
unwieldy
options.
way to...
Yeah, those are the two options. You hit him in the head with the side of it, or you stab him with the actual screwdriver. Why would that... Who picked that in the Omega Callis days and then decided to keep running with it? And why wasn't Ospreay dead?
And the thing is also, if you're going to hit somebody with the handle of the screwdriver, then you might as well bring in a ball-peen hammer, because that would accomplish your task much easier. Because why use a screwdriver to fucking hit somebody with the handle? It's like using, I don't know, a baseball bat and poking somebody in the top of the head with it with two hands like a fucking stick. But anyway, that was that match that a lot of their fans raved about, is what happened there.
Not everyone can bunt like you. Let me ask you about Fletcher and Ospreay, because I've been high on Fletcher, and he's picking up size, and he's got a good look, and I don't know about those jeans he was wearing, but he's got his whole thing going on, and unfortunately he's got a shit manager, but he's got potential. Ospreay has been over. Ospreay hasn't been hurt as badly as everyone else because he's still kind of doing the stuff that he wants to do. Is this the right thing right now for Ospreay? A feud with Fletcher that would establish Fletcher? Or does Ospreay, I was about to say, does Ospreay need to keep working with established guys? But that's a silly question.
Well, and there ain't a lot of them.
That's it.
At this point, if they will tone down the gymnastics and tone up the theatrics and give us something that would, okay, why did he suddenly decide to do this to his old bosom buddy and lifelong friend or whatever? What motivation did he have to, want the guy to not win and to fucking turn on him like that and to give him the, Tiger fucking Driver 1997? And if depending on that and whether we're interested in it, yes, Kyle is getting a better physique and he's got a look going on and he's got some size and he's a good athlete. But do we want to see the gymnastics that will appeal to the smallest degree of the audience? Or do we want to see this Kyle Felcher be an updated fucking, I don't know, an updated Rick Rude or an updated some type of fucking major main event heel is what I'm trying to articulate. Or just another fucking gymnast.
And by the way, with Jake Roberts and Don Callis and now MVPs in there, they got the tallest manager stable maybe of all time.
Well, that's, they got to have size somewhere. Yeah, there's some kind of lewd remark you could have come back with.
I was trying to stay out of the lewdness here today, but that was the match. Right. Takeshita now the international champion. We'll see where they go with that. But what was next?